Hey everyone, great to have you with us again. Here we are, we're out of lockdown and we're back into it, and there's some positivity in the air, and that's exciting to see. There's also a lot of uncertainty about what's ahead, and there's a readjustment. I don't know about you, but I'm finding it almost as hard to readjust to the space of being able to be back in the office or not, as I did having to work from home at the start of the lockdown. So I'm going to bring in Vic soon. Vic Crone is the CEO of Cultivating Innovation, which is a government entity set up to help New Zealand businesses innovate. She's also the chair of Figure NZ, something I'd never heard about till today, but it's a website you should definitely check out. That's fascinating. And she's also on the board of Contact Energy. She also held previous positions of managing director at Xero, and before that, GM of sales and marketing at Chorus. So today we've asked Vic to break her talk about cultivating a mindset of innovation into three parts. Why is innovation so hard? How to develop a mindset of innovation, and what are the key principles that we need in order to actually deliver on those innovations. So Vic, if you can flip your camera on.
Kia ora, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
No worry, I hope it's accurate.
It's very accurate, and it's good to be here, and I look forward to sharing some thoughts with you. And please use the chat for questions, or so if you want to have conversations amongst yourself. I've just hopefully put up a first poll just to understand where you're at in regards to technology and your understanding of that, so that will help me shape the conversation as we go through in the next 20-25 minutes.
Awesome. I'll step out of the way and let you go for it.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to kick off with why innovation is so hard. And just to put some context to innovation, and then the situation that we're in now with the global pandemic. As we go into where we are now and through the next 1 to 2 years, either into a recession or, there's still some picking a depression, what we do know that happens out of those times is fundamental change. So if we look at the last recession, what came out is a whole lot of growth in technology and automation in regards to getting efficiencies out of our operations and our organizations. There was a lot of pivoting of services to new opportunities. There were a lot of new disruptive models that came through. So the social media generation, the platform generation in terms of Uber, Airbnb, things like that. So we had some fundamental shifts in our business models, and all of those were responding to consumer preferences and how they had changed. And I think the big opportunity for innovation, and why this is so important for your industry as well, is that through this global pandemic, we are seeing real-time, exceptionally fast shifts in consumer preferences, and it is now your job to respond to those. And for those very savvy organizations and leaders that we have out there in your industry, not just to respond, but that your business will thrive and become strongest through those changes. So that's the context. Why is innovation so hard? Essentially because it involves change, like a lot of change. And it's about disrupting and uprooting how we've become quite comfortable with doing things into a whole new way of doing things. And that is just simply hard to do. It's hard to do that when we're running our businesses, and we don't have enough resources already. We don't have enough time in the day. And also we've got obligations to family and all sorts of other things as well. So change is one. The second is complexity. If you go back, 10 or 20 years, while we were going through a lot of change in terms of new technology, it's actually nothing compared to what we're seeing now. So over the last decade, there's been some bigger movements in cloud computing and in mobile mobility services and applications in regards to social networking. So they're some of the big shifts we've seen come through. If you look to the next decade, there's a plethora of technology coming through. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, drones. We've got a whole lot of new biotech coming through that will influence us in terms of our health, and we'll be able to 3D print hearts and organs. And then, of course, we've got a whole lot of innovation in the alternative protein space, like growing meat in labs and growing milk in labs and things like that. So the plethora of change is about to get a lot bigger. With that brings immense opportunity, which we'll come to later. But that also adds to the complexity of this change. And if you haven't been able to keep up with the change so far, it's going to be quite hard for you to be able to jump on this next level of change. So we'll talk about some ways that you might be able to do that. And the other challenge that we have is that our market in New Zealand is not particularly connected with each other. And so we've got quite a vibrant tech startup community. Callaghan works with around 3,500, 4,000 businesses that are doing a lot of innovation using new technology like drones and all the sorts of things that I talked about. But what we don't have is really good connectivity between those businesses and our established businesses and our big corporates. And part of what we're trying to do at Callaghan Innovation is to build that connectivity. So if you can start to see in the construction sector, for example, where the innovation and technology is going, where the leading edge businesses are, then you can start to see where the market's going and then how you might be able to connect to those. We have stood up a platform called ScaleUp.New Zealand, which is about giving you that exact visibility. So it's a free platform. You can go on that now. We've got about 1,500 tech companies in there, and you can search by construction and you can see where the innovative companies are, what technology they're using. You can see where the investors are coming from in terms of investing in that industry. And you can see where the links to multinational corporates who are playing in that space as well are. So we're trying to get that connectivity through for you rather than you having to do it all yourself, because that's quite hard work. So I think I might just leave it there for kind of the opening introduction on why innovation is so hard, and just see what questions are coming through in the chat room. And if there's none, I'll keep talking. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of questions in the chat room. So what I'll do is I'll keep going, but it would be really helpful for you to put some questions in the chat room. I can tell from the poll that it's a very unscientific poll. My team of scientists would be very disappointed. I can tell that I've got a mix in this room of technology and a reasonable understanding of it. So why don't we head into how you could develop a mindset of innovation, and then I can come back to any questions that come in. One of the biggest thing that I notice and I see is where people play with technology in their home life. They are more open to technology in their business life. And it's quite easy for us to play with technology in our home life. And so one of the tips that I would give you in terms of developing a mindset of innovation, particularly for some of you out there who are looking for reasons to buy new toys and things like that, and birthdays and Christmas presents and things, is to get out and buy some of this technology. Get a drone, play with it with your kids. Get a 3D printer, get your kids using a 3D printer. I bought one for my kids about 10 years ago. I didn't really know what to do, but I learned so much from how they were using the 3D printer and what they did with it and things like that. So get a 3D printer, understand what you can do with that technology, and if you understand in your home life, you can demystify it and take it into your business and your work life. Robots are coming at us at a rate of knots, and we don't necessarily see that as fast in New Zealand because it isn't happening here as fast. However, it is happening around the world globally, around the world very fast. And so, buy your wife, or it's probably a bit sexist actually, buy yourself or your partner a robot vacuum cleaner, and just understand the benefits of that. I bought my dad a robot lawnmower. He's kind of in his 80s. He's got a big section. He's finding it really tough, as you would in your 80s. And so I bought him a robot lawnmower last year, and it's been brilliant. He loves, in fact, my parents have a robot lawnmower, a robot vacuum cleaner, and a robot mop. And now they want a robot window cleaner. So, whatever I can do to keep them in their home is how I look at that. And along the way, I get to play and understand how this technology can help us. So that's my number one kind of what you can do to develop a mindset of innovation is get out there, buy this technology. It's not that expensive. Give it to your kids, give it to your partner, give it to your parents, and really start to understand the use cases of it. And then you can apply it into your business life. The next one is to have a very curious mindset. As human beings, we're an interesting species, because if we don't evolve, we don't survive. So eventually we do get there and evolve. However, we're quite reluctant to change. And so how you change your mindset from you're comfortable with the way that you've been doing things, or it's been done this way for a long time, or it could be that you put a lot of tech into your business already, taking advantage of the last decade. And quite frankly, and I understand, you're quite tired from that. So the thought of doing that again, at a pace that is 3 to 5 times as fast is quite harrowing. But having a mindset of that curiosity of what could be, of who could be doing this, that I could go on Google, I could search, I could go and talk to, is really important. Too often our mindset is, I don't know about this artificial intelligence robot things, and I'm not even going to look at it until someone else in your industry starts to deploy it and deploy it at scale, and then it becomes very hard for you to respond to. Just another one in regards to your industry, for some of you, augmented reality and virtual reality will be another tool that you can use considerably in your businesses through the next decade or so. I think the next one is to think about situations where you have been very open-minded and willing to adapt. And a crisis often creates that in us, is that we're about to lose something, whether that's our job, whether that's our businesses, our partners. When we're in that state, we're much more willing to react. By the time we get to that state, it can often be a little too late, and then you've either lost the opportunity or you have to work so hard to get there. So for me, it's around bringing that crisis point earlier rather than waiting till the last minute. Get started earlier and buy yourself some time. So think about the times where you have been most successful in adapting to change, and what are the characteristics and attributes that you had in that time, and bring them into your way of operating now. So, you're on this journey and you can accelerate this journey. The next one is around taking multiple small bets. So, a lot of companies in New Zealand, particularly the big ones, have taken massive bets in innovation involving tens of millions of dollars. What we know from some of the most successful startups and some of the most innovative companies in the world is they take lots of small bets, they stand up a pilot, they get feedback, they prove it, they test it, they iterate it, and then they pick the ones that are going to work for their organization. And so taking that approach could be a good approach for you to get on this train more heavily in regards to innovation and trying some new things without always having to have, some of the capital and operational cost, OPEX overlays, some of the capital and OPEX overlays that you need to do these investments. So that kind of mindset of try small, hard, iterate fast, and then grow if it works, could be helpful for you. The next one is, I guess, the understanding, and we've seen it so many times that if you don't disrupt yourself, someone will come in and disrupt you. And whether it happens now or it happens in 5 years or 10 years, it is going to happen. And you don't want to be like the Kodaks. We don't want to be like the Sky TVs, where you're leaving it too late to respond to the disruption. So I'm a firm believer of, if you disrupt yourself, you have better control of the rules of the game. If someone else comes in and disrupts your business model for you, it's so much harder for you to play there. So that mindset of wanting to disrupt how you're doing things, because it's going to happen anyway, and often it does lead to better outcomes, is an important one. A couple more really is around getting talented people around you who understand innovation and technology and can support you through this journey. And that can look anything like getting, typically younger people in regards to who have grown up with technology for the past few decades, have quite a different view on it than I might, or, people who grew up with how I did, or someone who's even, older than me. And so getting them in, or using those kids in your family, or, in your broader family who have that tech innovation mindset, that hasn't been shaped by 20 years of business models is really important. At Callaghan Innovation, we also offer student grants where we will subsidise students coming into your business. They are obviously students who have degrees and experience in technology, and so that can help. And we've had quite a lot of feedback around how they have really challenged businesses thinking in regards to tech and innovation. And there's a lovely symbiotic relationship there of enthusiastic, new, diverse thinking around technology and business experience. So that's a nice fusion. And then the last one really is to just acknowledge as you go through this, the competence cycle. And the first place to start, some of you are already at this, for those of you who aren't, is to acknowledge that you're unconsciously not competent at this. So actually you may not be that great at it. That's okay. Acknowledge that. And then work out how you move into a space where you get good at it, and that's through education, your networks. There's lots of great resources out there like Tech Futures. They run for the price of a cup of coffee a month. They run articles and case studies and things like that you can sign up to start to learn about these technologies and lift your knowledge. So build your competence and then make that competence conscious, and then of course you become really good at it. So just thinking about it in the terms of that cycle. So that's a couple of things around that. We do have a couple of questions, so I'll just go to them. I think the way that we work and live tomorrow will change the design of our homes, and I just kind of want to pick up on a couple of global megatrends that we are seeing that is also influencing this, and therefore the level of innovation coming through. So a big one is our aging population. So we've got over the next 15 years or so a doubling of the 65 plus population in New Zealand. And so when you add that to the fact that by the time those people retire, their average age that they die will be more akin to 90-ish. That means that our homes will be looking a little bit different. And for those who want to stay in their homes, then you're looking at a lot more technology to support people in their homes. So you're looking at robots, you're looking at automation of the home, things like that. And then, of course, you've got a massive burgeoning population in retirement homes. And so how you think about that, and then those that are going into retirement homes earlier, who, in their mid-60s and 70s, who may now spend 15 years in that retirement complex, or even 20 years compared to the 5 to 10 that they may have. So that has all sorts of implications for the activities in that retirement community, how they live in that space for so long, things like that. In regards to our homes, we have a burgeoning population issue on the planet. We're heading to 9 billion people. We know in New Zealand already that our traditional way of housing of everyone living in a 3-bedroom house we just cannot cut that in regards to our future population growth. So how we're thinking about inner city housing, and there's a lot of great work going in the apartment space, community building space, things like that. The next one is around climate and sustainability, and consumer preferences are absolutely shifting there. And so how you are thinking about sustainability in your building design, in home. We're recycling in ways that we weren't. We'll be getting into composting, and there's some amazing technology ideas I've seen come through from in terms of bringing composting into homes, and then the materials that we use, and then the community aspect of our home environment and shared services like sharing lawnmowers and sharing compost bins and sharing gardens and things like that. So they are some of the big shifts I think that we're going to see in how our homes develop. The other thing is, of course, COVID-19 and the global pandemic, which I think will see a permanent shift of people into homes, and we won't see people in offices to the extent that we used to. Or kind of in the city. And so what that means is our homes aren't necessarily designed for a much more blended work-home life balance. And so you'll start to see demands in that. My neighbour next door in the apartment, she has a 1-bedroom apartment, works beautifully in regards to her job before COVID. but right now she's dying because, you know, she's got no place to work, etc., etc. So I think there will be some shifts come through in terms of that. I think in terms of, would I agree that now is the time to invest? Absolutely. Like you just can't leave it any longer. Too many businesses have left it far too long already, and therefore aren't well placed to pivot into the opportunities that are here. And we know that from the data in regards to, you know, plenty of different survey data that tells us our businesses in New Zealand are behind international businesses in their use of innovation and technology to change their products and services, to improve efficiency, and to deliver their experience in new ways to consumers. As I said, Tech Futures, I'll put the address in the chat, or we'll get it to you, for the price of a cup of coffee a month. Have online learning where you can get your head across this. So, you know, there's a lot of information out there now, and you can no longer kind of bury your heads and say it's not coming. It is well coming now. And the thing, as I started this with in regards to pandemics, or which is causing the recession, is technology and automation play massive roles in any recessionary environment, and so that's coming towards you. How do you get better at deployment? Well, that's where you just start small. It kind of brings me on to the next part of the conversation, which is the key principles of what we need to do to deliver these innovations. And it is educating yourself, broadening horizons, you know, looking offshore, things like that. But it is anchoring your technology and customer needs. So technology and innovation really is subservient to what your customers need and where they're going. So having a very good understanding of where your customer needs are, then all you'll do, which you do now, and many businesses are actually pretty good at understanding that, all you're then doing, instead of saying, well, I'm going to meet those needs with my existing business operating model, you're broadening to say, oh, there's a whole lot of new technologies coming, and which you're learning which ones are appropriate to deploy for your business. And then you're taking small bets and you're piloting and trialing. And I think that's the best way to do it, is to pilot and trial. You know, obviously, if you're a bigger business and you've got, you know, more cash flow and you know, more ability to invest, your pilots can be a lot bigger. But piloting and trialing and playing with it, working it out, and then working out which ones are giving you the most success for your business and your model, is a good way to deploy the technology. What we tend to do is have a look at what customers want and then go straight to our existing technology that we know about already to deploy. That's the bit you've got to disrupt, is to not go to just the existing technology, but to broaden your horizons into these new technologies and opportunities, and be open and minded enough to see, you know, what that could look like and how that could play out. So tech innovation is just an enabler. It is not the end game. It is definitely not. It is all about the customer. The other one is for those of you who have the ability and want to do investment in R&D. You know, obviously we play a big support role there, and the R&D tax incentive is designed to help you do more research and development, so you can develop these ideas, you can get them to a pilot stage, and we are sharing that investment risk with you, and then you can work out how you deploy them as you come across the successful solutions, and you will come across a lot of successful solutions. The other thing is to fail fast. Small bets, fail fast. Don't invest for years in it. If it's not looking like it's working, put it on the shelf. Don't forget about it, because it might come in a bit later when you find a different solution, but put it on the shelf and get into the next one. Often we only do 2 or 3 things and we stick at those for a little too long. And the final thing that I would say is in regards to your talent strategy. We don't have enough tech talent in the world, actually. And so how you're thinking about what types of tech talent you might need. Do you need software engineers? Do you need product managers? Do you need designers who can come in and do your service design? What do you need? And then thinking about how you go and source that. And how you source that in new models. So we're used to an environment where we have all the resources ourselves. And the world that we're heading into is a lot more sharing of resources. So as an industry, I'd be encouraging you, with the support of your industry bodies, to develop up talent in this tech space that you can share across the industry. Many businesses don't need a full-time chief technology officer, or they don't need a full-time UX designer. You can actually share those resources across businesses at the same time. So I would be thinking about how you get your industry bodies to be supporting you to develop a talent strategy for your sector, and then how you're able to support that and share talent across the sector. Let's go back to some more questions. I think the biggest mental block for people would be they just don't know what they don't know, and they're not open-minded enough to follow it through to see where it could go. And I think in New Zealand, we're really proud people. We don't necessarily like putting our hands up for help. And so the culture is not one of, I don't know, can you help me? We tend to keep persevering ourselves. And so when you put that mindset up against the shift that's happening at the moment, which is a plethora of information complexity, a plethora of technology, a massive shift in how consumers want their services delivered to them and how they want to experience them, plus all the trends that we're seeing in climate and sustainability, inclusivity, diversity, etc. That's a lot for us as leaders to individually get our heads around. And so the world that we're heading into is what we call one of collective intelligence. How do you let the computers do a lot of the processing of that information work for you? And then you are there to make the judgments and decisions as to what happens. So one of the biggest problems I see with leaders is they think they can still do it all. They think they can process all this information coming through. They can process all this technology and make all the decisions themselves. You simply can't. There's too much volatility, too much uncertainty in where we're going for you to do that. So that's a massive mind shift away from kind of individual expertise and brilliance to collective expertise, utilization, tapping that, and building communities and networks to help you make these decisions rather than going on it on your own yourself. The last one is the new innovations in construction are hard to cut through. Sluggish dinosaur that's resistant to change. This is the hardest one. All too often as businesses and individuals, we leave it to the last minute in terms of when we've got ourselves into a crisis state. And it's that recognition of, is that the place you want to go, either as a business or an industry? Is that you leave this for so long because you can't see it. You're forgetting that there's many other entrepreneurs that can see the opportunities in your industry, and they are lurking now, and they are working out how they use this disruption to come in and attack your business models and your industry, because it is massively ripe for disruption. You've got incredibly low investment in R&D, so there's not a huge amount of innovation going in, and there's massive opportunities for technology. When you think about hardware, sensors, augmented reality, virtual reality, in regards to whether that's how you bring to life your new designs, whether that's how you train your people from a health and safety perspective, through to the information that's going to come out across those sensors and how we can use that. All of that is sitting ready, waiting to go, with people hungry to come and eat your lunch. So the biggest question I leave with you is, do you want to leave it that long and be that industry that declines, or do you want to disrupt yourself and at least try to set the rules of the new game? And so I certainly know where I would rather be. At the end of the day, it is only your industry that can make that decision. And whether you choose to listen to the likes of not just me, but many other people who have made comments around the construction industry, this is a massive opportunity for you. We're disrupted already. It's a big opportunity for you to build into the future business models using technology and innovation. So that is your call. We are here at Callaghan Innovation to support you to do that. We have, funding to support. We have experts to support, etc. Things like that. So that's your at the end of the day, that's your call. I just really hope that you do move a little faster, so that you're not left really stranded and struggling, in the next 2 to 3 years. Yep, I'm totally open to, if I've unintentionally offended you in terms of calling you dinosaurs, my apologies. And I get that, and you're entitled to your views on that. Absolutely. I also agree with the next question in regards to regulation, and that regulation is not keeping pace enough with technology and innovation. And so we are facing the same situation in regards to regulation, that is not evolving fast enough then to support you to implement and deliver some of these new ideas around technology and innovation. And so in regards to loosening regulation, it really is how you as an industry have really strong relationships with the likes of government, your regulation bodies, with ourselves, etc., so that we can be, presenting, I guess, a common view on what regulation is holding you back, how that needs to iterate to then enable you to deliver technology and innovation. Sorry, Tara. Sorry about that. And so for me, I do worry that in New Zealand we are exceptionally strong at standing up regulation that facilitates new industries. So you look at how quickly we've galvanized around space, and we have a whole space industry now. We're incredibly strong there. Where we struggle is where we need regulation to evolve for existing industries. So, I think there's quite the conversation you need to have at industry level in regards to what regulation is holding you back, where that needs to go to enable you to deploy technology and innovation faster. So hopefully that helps with that one. Okay, I think that's kind of all the questions that I've got. Hopefully that was useful.
That's brilliant.
And best of luck, and we're here to help you and support you at Callaghan Innovation. We've got a lot of ways that we can do that. Thank you for your time, and kia kaha.
Really appreciate it. I feel like you've kind of cracked open another can of worms. It's so good to have someone outside the industry bring in some fresh thinking. It's hard, it's challenging, but it's also really exciting because there's opportunities amongst all that pain. So thanks so much. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts. And
you're welcome.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.